Hi everyone. As part of our tutorial about JDBC titled Simply JDBC, in today's presentation, now we are actually going to do hands-on work. That is, we are going to go through the code base about how to do CRUD implementation for a type 4 driver. Because up to now we are clear about how to create a table, what are the different operations that can be done on table and stuff like that. So essentially the operations are that is insert, read, update and delete. Okay, so which stands for CRUD. So now we are going to go through the Java code base and about how to go about this implementation. So I have named this implementation package as my JDBC CRUD. Okay. So package name is my JDBC CRUD. In this I am going to basically write it's like a library. So this particular class is like a library. So I have defined a class which is like public class my JDBC CRUD, and in this class, just to make it simple, I have written a main function. Ideally you should be writing this main function in another separate class, maybe something like my example or my test or my main. Just to make the thing simple, as part of this presentation, the main is part of this class. This is not the ideal position. It should be in another class, and then you should be accessing from that class. You should be using this my JDBC CRUD. But to make the thing simple, right, we have basically written main in this class itself. So package is my JDBC CRUD. Then we are importing java.sql, which is part of the connector that you have downloaded it and kept it at a particular location. So when you create a project which is just a simple Java project in NetBeans, if you do it, then as part of the library dependencies, you should basically include, or you should basically point it to the location where you have kept that connector jar file, okay, as part of the prerequisite. So because that prerequisite is what we have imported here. So import java.sql.star basically stands for the package or the jar file that we are using for doing the SQL operations. So now let's get going with the code. So public class my JDBC CRUD, in that we have defined the JDBC driver. So this is a final string for the JDBC driver, which I have told you that we will be requiring it as part of loading the driver. So com.mysql.jdbc.driver is the string. Then again you can see it here, the static final, because it's a final, you are not going to change it. And then the URL for the database, because the URL can change as per your say for example here my database name is study and it's situated on the local host, so it's JDBC MySQL then // localhost / study. For you it may be different, so accordingly you will have to put this properly. Okay, now this should be actually this is part of my JDBC class, just to make it things simple. Ideally these two lines should be part of a separate class, maybe like my test or something. Here I just make the thing simple so that understanding is easier. So now we will write the main. So here you can see this public static void main. In this we have basically defined 4 methods. The first method here is, which is called as, you can see it here, I am highlighting it. First is about the reading the record. So for example, if I have already stored some records, the way in which I have shown you, when I have created the record, I already have stored few names in that by manually entering it. So in that case you can probably try to access read record. So here this stands for CRUD, this is for the read record. So here you can see the query that will be typically used is select star from employee. This is the query. So this method db read records is going to take 2 parameters. One will be the db URL, because this is a general library method which can be used on any database. So for that you require a database URL and then the table name in that particular database, which table you are accessing. That's why this is written, or this method takes 2 parameters, that is db URL and then the table, and essentially is going to execute this query, which is select star from employee. Now to make it work properly, whether it returns correctly, whether it has successfully done the reading of record or not, and we are going to make use of a boolean which is flag, and based on that, whether it is true or false, we know whether it is done correctly or not. Then there are some local variables that are defined, which is related to the table name, because here in the main my table name is employee, and then the primary key I have just named it as a key name, which stands for the employee ID, which is the primary key of the table employee, which we have seen in our previous class. So here now if I want to insert a record, then when I want to basically read a single record, then what should I do is that if I want to select a particular record, then what I can do is that, suppose if I want to select a record for ID is equal to 1, then I can have another method which will just read single record. So db read single record is going to read single record. So what do I now require is, because I am going to execute a query which is equivalent of select star from employee, where employee ID is equal to ID, and then ID will be here 1, because we have written in the code ID is equal to 1. So that means to this method you not just have to pass the database and the table name, but also you need to pass the key name as well as the key ID. So this ID is 1, and then the name is whatever the name, because tables can be vary. This is a general method that is written irrespective of whether you are accessing a employee name, employee table, or a account table, or whatever. So it is written in a very general way. This method coding is done so that it can run on any database, on any table, so that this method is very generic in nature. Then we will now go to the CRUD, that is C. So here now let's say I want to insert a record. So for that the query will be insert into employee, and then the values are 1000 and then the name of the employee. So here this is the query that will be executed by this method. So db insert a record basically takes 4 parameters, that is URL of the database, then the table name, then the ID, and then the actual name that you want to insert. So whatever the parameter you want to send, that is ID and the name. So here I have said ID as 1001, then the string name is equal to Sunil, so that we will pass it to this method db insert record. And the job of db insert record is actually to insert a record in the database table. Then we can update the name also. Suppose if I have entered the name as Sunil and I don't want the name, I felt I have wrongly entered it, then I can have a query like update employee set name is equal to Ramesh, where employee ID is equal to 1001, and in that case the name Sunil will be replaced with Ramesh, and the method to do that is basically called as db update record. So this is create record, the first one is, and this is for the update record. So you can see, we have seen in the last slide, we have seen read. Now we are doing C, that is CRUD of the CRUD operation, that is insert or create. Then we are seeing also the update. Again update is going to take multiple parameters. So here is going to take database name, then the table name, then the property name, then it's the new name, because you want to get a new name which is Ramesh now, that you need to pass, and then the whatever the key name, and then the ID for that particular key. So all it's written in a general way, that's why you can see multiple parameters getting passed. Then you can similarly do the delete record. So whatever the ID, for the ID if you send it, it will automatically do the deletion of record from the database table. So these are the 4 operations that will be done. Then you will have finally the catch exception, and then the finally. So now in the next presentation we will be actually going into the reading records, then inserting and then updating, and the delete portion of the code. Thank you.